next presenter is a former MSAE and MUM graduate. He is a filmmaker. His film won a number of awards in independent film festivals in Cedar Rapids and Des Moines. He has made documentaries that have been featured on IFC.com, Pitchfork.com, among others. He has formerly worked for the David Lynch Foundation. He now works for a video production company out of Los Angeles. I might have that slightly wrong. He'll correct me if I am. But if you would all put your hands together and please give a warm welcome to Geoff Boothby.
As Mr. Walker said, you are an MSAE graduate and you're also an MUM graduate. Could you just kind of briefly summarize your education path?
I went to MSAE just like you guys, and then when I graduated, I had a choice of where I was going to go to college, just like you're probably all thinking about right now. And I knew I wanted to do filmmaking, even when I was at MSAE, but I decided that I wanted to go to MUM and not go to film school because I wanted to be in an environment that was super low stress and like super high creativity, because I basically just wanted to make movies and not like be stressed out. So I chose to go to MUM, and I went and I graduated, and as soon as I graduated MUM, I started working for the David Lynch Foundation, and since then I've just been making videos. I've never had to take a job other than doing videography.
So tell us a little bit about what you did at David Lynch.
At David Lynch Foundation, I was doing a bunch of documentary work. We would basically travel around and interview kids at schools like MSAE, like the schools that have meditation, like all over the country, and make little documentaries about their experiences, among other things.
And you did that for how long?
I did that for 3 years, and then I transitioned into doing wedding videography, which was something that I never thought that I would get into, because I had this idea that wedding videography was like not cool at all. But it turns out that everything's changing, because like videos are now all online and they're short and like they're interesting, and so that's what people who are getting married nowadays, that's what they want. They don't want like an hour-long video of like their wedding that's super boring and they're never going to watch it. They want like a music video of their wedding that's like super awesome, and so that's what I'm doing now.
Now, your initial interest in filmmaking was like making movies, like Hollywood kind of narrative fiction.
That's still my interest. I still want to make movies. I want to make films and short films and music videos, and like I want to do stuff that's fun and creative and cool that like people have never seen before. And one of the reasons why I moved into doing wedding videography is because I work for myself, and so I can control my own time. So I can choose whether I take a wedding on any given weekend. I can choose how many weddings I take in a year. And so at some point I could be like, oh, I'm not going to take weddings for 3 months. I'm going to make a movie. So it's like, I basically, the number one reason why I moved into doing this job is so that I could control my time like that.
Right, so you're working for yourself.
Right, which is the best thing ever.
When you were at MSAE, were there any courses here that specifically helped you with your career choice or encouraged you in any way in that?
I would say speech competition helped me a lot.
How many students here are involved in speech competition?
Yeah, nice.
Almost.
Yeah, speech competition is great. Speech competition really just like helps you, well, it just helped me become like more centered like within myself and like more comfortable. And it also helped me, I mean, a lot of the filmmaking like has a lot to do like with acting, has a lot to do with filmmaking. You deal with actors, you like deal with putting stories together, and like so the stuff that I was doing in speech competition really kind of like set me up for that.
Right. So even in documentaries, there's a story being told. I mean, stories are told even in the 2-minute mini documentary.
Yeah, so even when I was working for the David Lynch Foundation, at first I was kind of worried because I knew I was going to be doing documentary, and I thought it wasn't going to kind of satisfy my like desire to make movies and make like music videos and stuff. But it turned out that putting documentaries together, it's all the same thing. You're still putting a story together, you're still telling a story. And so making documentaries is developing like exactly the same skills that I wanted to be developing.
Now, when we talked earlier, you mentioned something about the technical side of filmmaking and video
Right.
being extremely important. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Right. I mean, filmmaking is extremely technical. It's like, it's basically, as far as like art forms go, and like, you know, it's one of the most technical things that you could possibly do. There's so many different aspects that you have to deal with the camera, you have to deal with sound, so you're dealing with picture and sound, and organizing people, and then editing, and all of those things have like a huge number of technical aspects. And it can take a really, really long time to learn, and the best way to learn it is just to do it. And what's cool is, nowadays, cameras are so affordable and editing equipment is so available that pretty much anybody can get a hold of a camera and just start making stuff. And so when I was working for the David Lynch Foundation, a couple years after I graduated from college, I got my first camera, I got my first computer with an editing system, and I just started making stuff on my own. And that is when I really started like learning how to make, like really making like leaps in learning how to make videos.
Right, right. Now, here's sort of a question we often ask our presenters, because it really reveals some interesting things, is what in your career path have you had that's been like a really major challenge for you? I mean, something that was like, oh my gosh, you know, how am I going to deal with this? How did you deal with that? And how did you come through the other side?
I think one of the biggest things was realizing how long it takes to get good at making videos. Like when I was making, it's like every single stage I would make something and I'd be like, this is so awesome. Like what I just made is so cool. And then maybe like a month later, I'd look back at it and I couldn't even watch it. I was so embarrassed. I thought it was so bad. And like, I think one of the hardest things was when I was in college, I made this movie. My senior year is my senior thesis project. It was called Warm Tooth Nation. Some of you guys may have seen it. And I was really stoked about it, and I made it. It was long. It was a huge project. It took me 8 months to put it together. I put it together with a good friend of mine, Colin Thomas, and we really like thought it was so awesome and that it was gonna do like super well, and it did do pretty well. Like it got into a bunch of film festivals in Iowa. It got into like it won some Webby Awards, which are like an online award that's like pretty awesome. But I also submitted to like 20 or 30 film festivals around the world, and it didn't get into one of them. Which is like, was really discouraging. But at the same time, it kind of like got me thinking about like, maybe I'm not there yet. Maybe like, I'm not gonna like ever get there. Like be at this point where I'm done. Like now I know how to make films. Like making films is going to be like a continuous thing that I have to learn about my whole life and keep getting better all the time. And so it was like, even though it was really discouraging to not get into a single film festival outside of the state of Iowa, it actually just pushed me to keep going and to like keep learning and to prioritize learning and like make sure that I was always getting better and always making like a better video than I made last week, you know.
You're a student, you went to MSAE from a young age?
Yeah, for my entire sort of preschool, pre-kindergarten.
So all the way through. So obviously the whole meditation SCI thing has been very much part of your life.
Yeah.
Is there anything particular from that you found is practical, very practical value in the profession you're in now?
Well, on an obvious level, filmmaking is like a very time-consuming, technical, and tiring thing. So, like making sure that I'm like doing my program is super, super important because you have to like stay on your game. Like you have to keep a creative edge, and in order to like be creative and like be making awesome videos continuously, you have to like be rested and comfortable within yourself. And meditating is like no question. Like I have to do that. It's like the best way that I found to like stay creative and like awake.
Now another question is about, obviously when you're making any kind of video, you have not just the actors, but you have the client, you have the person
Right.
who's paying the bill. Who,
Right.
in my experience, I used to do video too,
Yeah.
would be usually the most problematic person around.
Yeah, it's
Because
like-
they were usually very opinionated and
Yeah.
they didn't know much. And
Yeah.
that combination was pretty disastrous.
Yeah.
So I'm interested, what personal kind of relationship skills have you developed, or would you recommend, or just any comment about how to deal with difficult clients?
Well, all right. Working for clients can be really, really terrible. But I would say, let's see if I can answer this really quickly. The number one thing that I've found is that if people are hiring you to do like something professional, they are hiring you because they don't know how to do it, and you do. And so to a certain extent, you need to like just trust yourself that you know what you're doing. And if somebody's paying you to do something, that they are putting their like faith in your abilities.
They're trusting.
So, and the other thing is, you want to make sure that you do know what you're doing. And from my side, one of the other things that I do all the time is I'm constantly watching videos online. I watch movies, I watch videos that other people are making, so I know I'm constantly trying to get a sense of what is considered good. Like, what within like videos is considered good right now in the world, and what are people making that is really awesome, so that like I get to this point where I feel like I know what's good. And so when a client comes to me, if they tell me to do something, if they're asking me to like put something in a video that I know is not good, I'm just not going to do it. And I might not even tell them that I'm not going to do it. I might just do it. I might just like make the video that I know is good and give it to them and see what happens. And from experience, like a lot of times people will ask for something and you'll be like, God, that's terrible. What they're asking me for is so bad. And I'll be like, I'm just not going to do that. I'm just going to do this other thing that's very similar to what they're asking me, but that I think is actually going to be good, and then I'm just going to give that to them. And you give that to them and they're like, oh yes, this is exactly what I asked for.
So basically, competence rises is essentially what you're
Right,
saying.
but in order to get there, you really need to spend the time to think about it and to figure out what is good, not just be like, I know what's good, but I don't ever like watch movies or any, you have to like take the time and really look at what other people are making and think about
Right, and I think that's a really interesting point. A lot of our presenters over the time we've been doing this have brought out what you've just said, is that education doesn't stop. I mean, you're in school now, you're in high school now, and then you're going to go to college, and then it's like, okay, then you get a job. But the education process, I mean, you just
Right.
described it.
Right.
You're constantly
Yeah.
going to graduate school.
I don't consider that it will ever end. I'm sure I would love to continue to make movies until the end of my life, and I think I'm going to be learning every single day of that entire process. And that's like awesome to me.